News team, assemble!
It's back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, we are back. It is the unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com and Soonerscoop.com podcast, YouTube, all of that stuff. YouTube has been an interesting place this week thanks to one Eddie Radosevich, who has riled up the Whitney Houston masses.
Yeah, the OJ stuff was okay, but if you said that Whitney Houston was a little bit of a... She liked The Rock. If you say that, it's out of bounds.
I don't understand I mean, she's past, it's like they've had documentaries about how messed up she was.
Yeah, I mean, you basically could say Nicole deserved it, and they would be like, yeah, he might have a point.
I don't know about that. Anyway, just calm down. Look, we're having fun, people. Like, I get the YouTube audiences. By the way, as I check now, we're up to 14,899 YouTube subscribers. I want to get that puppy to 15.
15 by kickoff of whatever's going to happen Saturday, just so I have a little bit of self-worth.
I would like that. I would love that. That would be a big positive, which I need because the GD construction just continues, and I just want it over with. We got the new window replaced finally, which I don't know how that thing was like 2 months. That window was cracked. I guess that's when we started. So that's finally replaced today. I feel good about that. Got the tradesmen are coming in and out, but hopefully, my God, I just need this to be over with. Eddie saw me going. Josh, you'll appreciate this. And let me tell you first, all my own money. I used it as an excuse to go buy new power tools yesterday. I got a hammer drill. You ever seen a hammer drill?
Oh yeah. I've had to operate one. It's like
for taking up like
tool to use.
It's like taking up like if you get tile down, and then the stuff that it leaves behind, it like drills that stuff up. Eddie used it yesterday.
I tried to. Well, it doesn't seem like we were running the safest operation around here, Josh. No safety goggles, nothing, and. For somebody that cares about his eyes as much as I do.
Definitely one of those.
The people at Enjoy would not like me doing
my
that.
Pants kind of construction guys, yeah. I
can be that way for sure.
I spent 3 weeks getting permits, damn it. Like, I got the permits. Whatever happens, happens. It's not like I'm licensed to do this stuff. So, anyway.
I'm sure we have it set up for Eddie's worker comp. So that's the great...
That's a good point. Maybe I should get in there.
We do have workers' comp coverage. I will say that. But no, you're right. Putting you in charge of things that fly up at your face with the Enjoy sponsorship, we're putting that at risk. That's a bad idea. So
him doing the read with like a patch over his eye, I think that'd just be amazing.
I mean, if you don't see the pirate look too often these days with the eye patch.
I'm trying to think. There was that guy on Days of Our Lives, Patch.
I haven't watched it.
That was when I was a kid. I mean,
never
that's
got
like
into
super
the
old reference.
Never got into the.
I know the guy you're talking about. Yeah. The last great Patch character was what? The Mike Myers, Austin Powers, the bad guy.
Oh, was Goldmember the one with the patch?
Oh,
I don't.
Or was it his dad that had
it,
the patch?
It was the guy that took over for Dr. Evil, like after Dr. Evil got shot up in the Big Boy.
Oh, yeah. No. It's number two. Number two.
Yeah.
But was it the Rob Lowe number 2? Was he the one with the patch?
No, it was the older guy.
Okay.
It was the older one.
Yeah.
In the layer.
Man, what a dated movie that would be to watch back now.
It's a beautiful comedy.
It'd be like watching Spaceballs almost.
It's a great cinematic feature.
You're a big Austin.
I love when we hit a movie
Austin
that
Powers.
Eddie knows.
Interesting.
Yeah, Austin Powers.
It is.
Great.
You never know how you're going to hit on something that Eddie enjoys filmically, cinematically.
I enjoy all movies.
You've never seen most of the movies. You've never seen Star Wars.
Because it's a bad show. It's a bad.
Oh, that's just bullshit. Eddie.
One of my favorite actors of all time just
Eddie.
passed last week.
Oh no.
Who was that?
He was a football player too. And a murderer, O.J. Simpson.
Okay. Big Naked Gun guy, were you?
Loved it. Loved what he did to the... Listen, I've told you guys before, I stopped supporting Hollywood. We see everything that's coming out about him all the time nowadays.
I wouldn't really call P. Diddy Hollywood.
Well, I think he's associated with it. And what they did with Georgia's guy, Harvey, I think it's just unacceptable.
I think Georgia stopped paying attention because he just did not catch what a stray he just was receiving.
George wants plausible deniability is what George
exactly.
wants.
All right, lots going on. We got a spring game coming up on Saturday. Eddie, you can go ahead and hit the start listening here portion of the rundown.
Wasn't too long.
It wasn't too long. Anyway, spring game coming up. We actually did talk to Jackson Arnold and Danny Stutsman last night after practice, and good visit with those guys. We'll talk more about it. We've got, by the way, I did mention YouTube. Practice reports, recruiting reports, new ones up yesterday. Go check that out if you haven't already. And we got a family business coming up today with Kenny Stills is going to be the special guest today. So it should be interesting catching up
That'd be cool.
with Kenny. Kenny's never been a real spotlight guy. Like, do you remember seeing many interviews with Kenny Stills over the years?
I think like towards the end of it. Towards the end of his career,
he did a lot of charity
got
stuff
into a
and
lot
things
of
like that.
like the social activism and stuff like that. But no, not really particularly like when he was here at Dorman or anything like that. I always enjoyed talking to those guys. All three of them.
Yeah,
all
the
three
Cali
of the
trio were great.
Cali trio were great. They were kind of like the first advent of OU athlete that was a little bit out of the mold.
Almost like pre
NIL era.
Yeah, pre NIL, but I'm thinking like more like pre influencer.
Yeah, a little bit. I could see that. I always enjoyed all three of those guys.
Like Tony had a really good Instagram for a long time. Like he's probably one of the first people I followed on Instagram.
He was really good on Twitter, too.
Yeah.
He was funny
he's good on Twitter.
They were always pretty real, which I appreciated.
So anyway, that's coming up. But go check out the YouTube channel. And you know what? The pod is on the YouTube channel now too. So this is going to upload. Video will be coming when I finish the big studio. We'll start putting the unofficial 40 on video like everything else. And as I said, the audio stuff's going to start crossing over. I've got to set all that up on Spotify. So that will be coming. But yeah, go to the YouTube page. It's just youtube.com/SoonerScoop and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when all of our stuff comes out, because we put a lot of crap out there. So you want to know when the recruiting report's coming out, when the practice report, we got portal reports coming up. You got the family business, you got stickball. So a lot of information out there on YouTube, a lot of great shows. So anyway, spring game coming up on Saturday. We're still sitting here wondering if the game time might be flexed a little bit because of the weather that's coming in. You guys will have to let me know. I haven't really kept up on what the latest.
It's going to be it's an awful day. I don't know any other way to say it.
And as George said, we feel worse for you.
Yeah,
for you because you're going to be out in the elements.
It's not just the temperature, which is going to be in the low 50s. It's the 70% chance of rain basically all day. And I don't think that it's like a lightning situation or like big severe thunderstorms.
Just unpleasant.
Like that. It's just a rainy ass Saturday. A bad day to be holding in a spring scrimmage.
And I think that the university, I mean, they're obviously checking the weather. Like, I just don't think they're going to want to move it to Friday because
there's a lot that goes into the weekend.
Right. There's, you've got people that are signed up to work, concessions and all that stuff. You've got recruits coming in, which I think is a big holdup on that. And, some of them can't make it till Saturday or some are getting in Friday night, whatever it may be. Like, there's just a lot of logistics that unless the weather is very severe, like it was in 2019, they're not going to move days. Now, I do think that you could see them move up the time. I think it's actually supposed to rain more in the morning and early afternoon. Yeah. So I think it's more likely they would move back the time. But those are I think those are the options right now. I don't know. I think they're just going to go ahead and play at one and just everyone's just going to have to suck it up and get it over with. And there's a good chance too. I think that I mean, they're going to, after like a quarter or two of it, they're just going to be like, all right, let's just get this over with.
Well, and the other thing is, they have moved this game before, but that was like tornadic, predictions on that Saturday.
Threat level 5 of 5 that there's going to be a tornadic experience somewhere in the state of Oklahoma. That you
of course, Eddie was at the Masters that year.
I was,
and he had to get an early flight back.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the Friday night experience. I thought it was a lot of fun. It's unique. Yeah. I think that in some facets, teams should maybe go to the Friday night spring game. I think it's kind of unique in and of itself. But
I wonder though, because it's a recruiting, function for people. Like kids are still in high school.
yeah, I think there's
Like
a lot
it's
of
probably just doesn't the
driving
logistics don't really work out all that well.
Driving down to Norman on a Friday afternoon isn't the easiest thing in the entire world. Much easier to get down here on a Saturday.
Well, I think, one thing we do know, the administration, they always have a very good vision of how to get things done, just like the folks over at Enjoy do. And folks, it's time for your Enjoy Vision look around and with your fresh perspective with Eddie Radosevich, who will say nothing controversial during this ad read.
If they would have been able to have Enjoy and LASIK before, like what we're currently in, they would have been able to have like laser vision and just burn down the Lloyd Noble Center. And I think that would have been pretty cool. But to do that, you would have had to gone to Enjoy Vision, which is the best laser vision center in Oklahoma City. And it's not even close. The combination of mind-blowing technology, experienced eyeball surgeons, and exceptional patient care was life-changing for me. What they're doing for the Unofficial 40 listeners, they're giving $400 off LASIK. All you got to do is go to enjoywithme.com, the letter NJOY with me.com, and use promo code U40 for $400 off LASIK. Enjoy Vision. This is where you LASIK.
All right. Well, I think not bearing the lead, where we want to start today is probably with the portal. And, throughout the week, we're going to wait, I think, a day or so, and then we'll have a portal report on YouTube.
Yeah.
But from everything that we know now, it's kind of what we talked about, where we thought OU should go, which is defensive line, offensive tackles. That seems to be, George, kind of where a lot of the focus is right now. Like every time a defensive back comes out, in the portal, even if they're from a Power 5 school and you've heard of them, you're just kind of like, I don't know that OU really needs to focus on defensive backs or linebackers or things like that.
It's the trenches that OU has mostly focused so far in the portal, and the problem for OU is there haven't been a ton of huge names go in the portal in the trenches, especially on the offensive line. I mean, other than Branson Hickman, the SMU center who's coming in this weekend, there's not been a ton of quality guys. There's been some interesting names that OU might, throw a flyer out there, but that's kind of the position that it wouldn't shock me if they try to add at least 2 or 3 guys up front. I just don't know if there's 2 or 3 guys they like enough to add up front. Maybe you get, the kid from Minnesota, what's his name, McConnell. Cade
McConnell.
Maybe you convince him to be a preferred walk-on.
He's a Choctaw High School graduate,
right? Like I don't think he's a scholarship guy, but maybe you could get him to walk on and you just have another body up front, something like that. But other than that, there's not a ton of guys on the defensive line. Though there are some interesting names. I mean, we've talked about Philip Bellidy on here, the defensive lineman from Indiana. I get the sense that they like other guys over him. That's not to say they won't take him, and he's coming in this weekend, but I do think that there's maybe a couple others they would prioritize over him, and one of them being the Louisville defensive tackle, Jermaine Lowell? Is that how you say his name?
Yes,
Jermaine Lowell.
Yeah, that's what I said all morning. So
he's been productive. I think Eddie, you said what, 6'2", 6'3", 310 pounds. So obviously a big guy. He's been productive at Louisville. I know he's had some injuries in the past, but this last year had a pretty solid year. And he's a guy that I don't know if he's necessarily a day one starter, but he's definitely in the rotation and somebody that you could say, okay, he's played high level college football before and at least has some experience. Yeah. I also think there's some guys that aren't in the portal yet.
Looking at the little kids numbers from Louisville, you go, I mean, he checks every box. Obviously, from a height and weight situation, he was listed at Louisville at 6'3", 310. I think he was listed in the portal at like 6'2", 310, which, give or take, I don't really care. But he's over 300 pounds. He has experience playing in the ACC. It would seem like that is at least a step ahead of everybody else.
Is there any other outside of defensive tackle, offensive line? Is there anybody that you've even seen in there that's been like, huh?
I mean, there was
tight end maybe.
To be completely honest,
well, the running back thing has been interesting.
I was going to say that.
If he's not a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman, I haven't even been paying attention to him.
Yeah,
except for the running back.
The only one is
he wasn't. And we're talking about the kid from Oregon State,
Damian Martinez.
I don't think that he was ever going to even acknowledge Oklahoma.
No, but I do think that there was, if he did acknowledge Oklahoma would have been interested. I think that that's a room that they like a lot, but they say, hey, if a really dynamic player like a Damian Martinez were to be interested, they would also be interested.
If you can add the best player at whatever position from the portal, of course you're going to take a look at it.
Right.
You know what was really weird is we were on the practice field last night is all the players were wearing different jersey numbers, and the running back group was walking out, and I saw Javonte Barnes, and he was wearing a different number jersey. Maybe it was.
Are you sure? Because I thought it was just the linebacker group that changed numbers.
Yeah, I think it was.
Well, Caleb Hicks
was wearing 0.
was wearing 7.
I don't think so.
I took pictures.
Here we go again.
Let's see.
I don't think that I think it was just the linebackers. They were the only ones that I noticed.
Yeah.
Caleb Hicks was definitely wearing 7, and he usually wears 0. And the point I'm trying to make
I need
is
to see the pic.
they were wearing different numbers, and I thought to myself, like, man, who is that guy? He looks really like they looked even better with different numbers.
I mean, that's I have zero comment on that. I think they probably look the same to me. I don't know if the number does a whole lot other than defensive linemen. Sometimes the number, like I don't like Jaden Jackson wearing 65. That doesn't feel right to me.
It's better than 1.
That's an awful number for defensive linemen. That's just not acceptable.
I'm on record. I'm not a fan of the single digits on big guys. I know
If they're all Americans,
0.
I
like
like they
0.
should be wearing a single digit.
yeah,
I
they
think
better
0
be
is
all
good.
Americans. They better be like the best.
I
That's what Florida State.
I
kind of-
support
it's
defensive linemen wearing single digit numbers.
Not
you
if they're
can't-
just okay.
Well, OU has like 5 Outland trophy
And they
winners.
better be like physical specimens as well. You can't just be a 340-pound guy wearing 1 with bad weight.
Oh no. I think that's a 0. You want to make it bigger. I want it to look even more like I want him to just be
99.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
I like the single digit, but I'm completely with you guys. There needs to be a criteria. Like you're going to be a single digit, you better have led the defensive line in a statistical category last year. Tackle for loss. You better be somebody.
What about kickers wearing like 88?
I don't care as long as they make the field goals.
Keltner's 98.
How old do you think you guys, if you went back through it and thought about like OU's kickers of the last 25 years, how many of their numbers do you really think you could remember? Like
All of them?
Like
Seibert was
Do you?
43.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Burkich was 17.
No, 47.
47.
47. Well, it's the same number. I'm dyslexic.
Jimmy Stevens was 17, right?
Yes.
Isn't that right?
15?
Uh-huh.
Carlo was 83.
I bet
Yeah,
Bob could rip
Carlo,
through
I
this.
would remember.
Bob could probably rip through every kicker.
Yeah, Bob could. 100.
Garrett
Bob
Hartley
doesn't
was
count. Bob's not part of
47, I
this.
think. He was in the 40s.
I thought Hartley.
Garrett Hartley was 32.
32, Bob yells.
Okay.
That's just part of the show now, just
God.
Bob yelling. Yeah, we shouldn't go into detailed things without Bob in the room, probably. It's not a good idea.
Seriously.
But back to your point, though, I do think Caleb Hicks is one of their better looking running backs, no matter what number he wears. And I wonder, I think you like Sawchuk and you like Barnes if he can be healthy and all that. But I think Hicks has a chance to be their most dynamic guy, at least until Taylor Tatum gets on campus. And I think he's the guy that could really change the whole dynamic in that room.
Yeah, but I think they're going to stick with what they got. I mean, I think that's what we're getting out of this.
Unless again,
Yeah.
Damian Martinez was a very like again, if Damian Martinez was like, I'm coming to Oklahoma wouldn't have said no. Is what I'm trying to say.
But if he did come, you'd probably have to prepare yourself for like a transfer, like after spring.
Yeah, which I think they would be fine with.
I don't think that's happening, though.
No,
We're just
Like, why are we
we're
even
going
talking
into
about
hypotheticals. It's not.
it's
happening.
offensive and
It's
defensive line.
offensive and defensive line. I would
Yeah.
focus 95% of my energy into there. I think that there's going to be other
That's
guys
what
that
we're
leave
doing.
the program.
And I think that they are also, from what I understand, they're willing to spend some money, I think.
Well, you have to. I mean, you're not going to get anybody that is.
We're
I know.
not
I'm just
damn
trying to
it.
say
Yeah.
because there's going to be people out there like, well, you didn't want to spend money.
I'm so past the point of having to talk to these people about NIL that OU's not a player, that they're not offering
Oh, I know.
money. It's you're not going to get anybody worth a damn if you don't pay up. That's the name of the game. It's pay for
I
play
think people
right now.
mistake OU's not competing with Oregon and Tennessee and a couple, like 3 or 4 others that just have insane amounts built in. With that exception, OU's about on par with everybody else. Like, it's not that people try to make it in like there's like these 20 teams and OU's 30 spots behind them. Like, it's not that.
Well, but I
It's
think
just
we can. I think
they're
we
not going
can
to spend. Go ahead.
I mean, I think we can separate like Missouri and Ole Miss and even A&M formerly. I don't know where they are now, but they're just on a different level. They're on a ridiculous level that's not sustainable, that they're trying because they're desperate.
I would also say right now, too, there's not currently anyone in the portal worth, like, some of the money that has been thrown around previously.
And I would also say on top of that, if they are, they're probably coming from an SEC institution, which, this time around, Oklahoma, you can't go get an SEC. You can
Correct.
maybe get somebody, but he's not going to be able to help you immediately, obviously. You got to sit out a year.
Right.
Which I think is something that has been overlooked a little bit.
Yeah.
We talked to
Like
Andy
the
Staples
Arkansas
about that
offensive
yesterday.
lineman, yeah.
Yeah. Arkansas, there's been an A&M guy that's jumped in, and there's just several guys that have come in the SEC that OU, I think, would like to be interested in, but they it's hard because they need people that can help them next year.
Which, by the way, to me makes no sense that they have that rule. They're just weakening themselves. They're not stopping people from leaving and going somewhere else. But I mean, let's not pretend like there's going to be a ton of poaching going on that's not already going on if that rule's not in place. I mean, the same thing's going to happen whether that rule's in place. You're just not going to take someone that might be talented to make your team better. I just think it's a dumb rule.
I think the coaches
guys,
like it.
What's that?
I think the
somebody
coaches
asked me
like
a
it.
question.
Well, don't leave things up to the coaches. We know that they'll make things worse no matter what.
But aren't we the same people that sat here and said, we missed the old way? And, like, this is still an old way of thinking of keeping the guys in the SEC. And I do think that it limits some people from maybe jumping when they would have previously because they know they can't go to another SEC school. So, like, I think it's I'm not saying it's a good rule or a bad rule, but, like, I understand where they're coming from. Like, it's a way of trying to keep it at least somewhat in the same way, like keep guys retained.
But they're not retained. They're just going to go to another conference.
Maybe
They've already decided
think-
they don't want to be there anymore.
But what George is saying, I think that if you would want to, quote unquote, play at the top level of college football, moving from Ole Miss to wherever, Auburn or
Mississippi State.
whatever, I think that there would be probably a good number of guys that would do that over transferring out and going to Purdue.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, it's whistling past the graveyard, guys. We know that this gets taken to any court in America, it loses.
Yeah, they just need one lawsuit to trigger them getting rid of that
so
rule.
you're like, why are you fighting this battle? Like, you're going to lose.
So, yeah, anyway, but yeah, we're going to keep an eye on the portal. Guys are going in still. And George was speaking my language earlier. Tampering exists, and good. Tamper all you want.
That's what I was going to say. It's still, I think, relatively early. I mean, you're basically not even a full day into it. I was a little surprised yesterday that there weren't more names.
And I think
to a
that
certain
some
sense.
of it's,
name names, like, things that guys that you think.
Yeah. Like,
well, I mean,
guys
there was a
that you expect.
Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado's had a little bit of an exodus yesterday. I don't really know
That's
what's
a lot
going
of Louis
into that.
leaving.
It is also something that was thrown out there yesterday from a national writer. I think it was with On3, possibly even, that there's a number of guys that are probably waiting to collect their last NIL check from the school that they're at currently before they enter their name into the portal.
correct. And a lot of that comes right after spring practice is over, and some teams aren't having, their spring game or the end of their spring practice till next week. So I think you're going to see guys enter all the way up till April 30th. I mean, a lot can change from now and then.
Sure.
And that's why, I would say, these guys that are coming in this weekend, I think the Hickman kid, especially, if they can get him, they'll take him. But you look on the defensive line, if some more guys enter, I'm not saying that they're not going to take the kid from Louisville, but don't be surprised if there isn't a commitment right away from some of these guys because OU's also sitting there saying, well, maybe somebody else might pop in that we like a little bit better.
Yeah, you have quite the, I guess, gamble or risk or decision that you have to make. Are you going to take somebody just to be good with it, but then you don't know what's like right around the next corner? It's like one of those like Price is Right things where it's like, do I want to take what they've revealed to me, or do I want to take what's in the box that hasn't been opened yet?
Okay, so here's my question. This weekend, you have guys that are going to be in for the portal and also recruits. As a staff, do you almost try and keep those groups apart? Because you don't want guys, that are in here that maybe don't have OU's interest in, top of mind, that might talk to these kids and tell them things about college and make them kind of, say things to them that aren't going to help you trying to recruit these kids while they're on campus, whether it's the way they coaches treat you once you do sign, or just being maybe a little too real with kids. Should coaches be concerned about stuff like that?
I don't think that a prospective kid coming from the transfer portal would be able to speak about what the experience like at Oklahoma is like. I don't know why it would even matter.
But just college football in general, I'm saying, like how it's so much what they didn't know back when they were recruits, what they did, find out, the things that they do or don't like about college and things like that. Like, it just seems like it's something that you might, as paranoid as coaches are about everything, whether it's people watching their practices or whatever, I would think that they're going to be paranoid about, letting a seasoned college athlete talk to their recruits when they can't really control what's being said.
I just don't think that's going to be an issue because a lot of the guys that are coming in are not even going to be on campus by the time those recruits get on campus. I mean, they're selling two different things.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're there. The recruits are there for a different reason. They're looking for somewhere that they can be for 4 years. At least that's the way they look at it. And the guys that are coming in for the portal are saying, I got 1 semester of being here. Like, I think it's a different perspective to where they might cross paths, but I don't think that it's going to be a big.
You think the portal stuff will be a lot more like individualized visit for that person versus a group?
Yes, correct.
I
think so because they're trying to say, hey, we want you to come in for 1 year,
I don't know, Josh, if you have any thoughts on that.
Sorry, I got sidetracked. I was messing with something on the recruiting report started playing for me, so I had to make it stop. But other than that, no, I don't have anything. What I did want to say a second ago is I again apologize if this has anything to do with what's just been talked about in the last 15 seconds, but guys, do you think if they take the kid from Louisville this weekend, is that indicative of, okay, they're planning to take 2 interior guys? Like that would be my read on it.
I think they should take 2 regardless.
I agree. I
think so too. And the more you hear from, several, like I mentioned earlier, they've been talking to the Bellighty kid, and he's not changed his plan. He's still coming in, even though Lowell is also coming in this week. And I thought maybe all of a sudden Bellighty might not be interested. They've also recently talked to Brandon Lane, a defensive tackle out of Stephen F. Austin. So, I think that there's clear interest with several guys, and I don't think that's just, we're just going to, check out all these guys. I think it's if we can get 2, we're going to take 2. And I also don't think, Josh, because I think some people have read into this as, they plan not to play Jaden Jackson and David Stone and some of those young guys. I think they still have every intention to get those guys on the field next year. I think this is more of, we like somebody with experience over, say, maybe an Ashton Sanders or a Marcus Strong or even Devon Sears or Grayson Halton. Like, if you can, because those guys have been in the program, they just haven't played a lot of football. I think the true freshmen are still going to play no matter how many guys they bring in. I just think that they need some experience. And those guys, if you can get 2 of them, that'd be great. I mean, last year, don't forget too, last year they brought in, who was the big kid from Utah State or whatever, and everybody thought he might end up playing.
The Paya kid.
Yeah, and he just never played. So maybe you take one of these guys and they just never get on the field because someone else beats them out or whatever it may be. Or
they took a chance and they just weren't.
I think they just look at it and say, we're about to play in the toughest conference in football where the trenches matter, and we need as many 300-pound guys as we can get to last a season.
Here's the thing, too. I mean, look, Jaden Jackson may look like a guy that's ready to play this year. Maybe could make a difference. But when you have an experienced guy that's been in college football, played in the trenches for 3 years, he's a guy that understands how you play through, nicks and bruises and maybe bad ankles and stuff like that. A freshman, is not going to have that. Like he's not going to understand the difference between injury and pain. Whereas, experienced guys that have played a lot of football, they've had to go, into a game at 70% and play that game.
Here's the thing is I think Jaden Jackson is certainly ready to go out there and contribute. But is Jaden Jackson ready to play 300 snaps in an SEC schedule in a season? Probably not.
And
but
hold up physically.
But he could probably give you a really good 150 snaps next year as a true freshman, and then you can kind of divvy out some of those other things. I mean, they want a true 6-man rotation. I mean, that's what they had last year, and it ended up getting down to about a 5-man rotation. So right now you're looking at, what, DJ Terry is in that mix, Grayson Halton, David Stone,
Devon Sears,
Jaden Jackson. I mean, but you're still counting on guys, that haven't played a ton. And so I think they're just saying, let's bring in competition if we can in size and just guys that have played.
Yeah, so two makes sense. It does. It really does. It with knowing how many guys they want to play, how many bodies they want. 2 makes sense.
I think if you can get one really good one, that's a win. If you can get 2 really good ones, that's just a massive win. Like, I don't think it's a loss if they just get one of these guys. Well, or if there's only one that they like.
And how many guys do you need so that David Stone can be as effective as he could be, whether he's inside, outside, whatever.
Right.
All right, let's talk about the offensive line a little bit, because I know we've talked a lot about the defensive tackle position, but talking about what we're hearing in practice, seeing, the Jacob Sexton thing working inside a little bit. Obviously, I think my read is that they know that if they have to put Jacob Sexton out at tackle, they're going to be fine. They're going to be okay, but they want to see who else could be that guy that they could really trust. And to me, I know I've seen arguments about, they're going to play Sexton at tackle. They're just trying to get other people some work right now so they know what they have. And I can kind of buy into that. But at the same time, I feel kind of like the defensive tackle. Like, I know they're not out there like they are a defensive tackle, but you could use 1 or 2 more offensive tackles in the program right now.
Oh, they could use, yes, at least 2.
1 or 2.
The answer is yes when talking about the offensive line and if they need some guys. It is becoming a little bit more of a reality, though, that I think at where they're at right now, they're a better offensive line with Jacob Sexton playing guard. Is that more of a statement of everything else? Maybe a little bit.
Yeah. But that's how Bill Bedenbaugh works.
Well, I was about to say, he is a guy that he just wants to find his best 5. It doesn't matter if they're playing a position that maybe they won't play in the future. But if Jacob Sexton's one of your best 5, which I fully believe he is, then he's going to be somewhere on that offensive line. And if it's left guard because Michael Tarquin is all of a sudden a little bit better than what they anticipated, then they'll do that. And I don't think it's a situation of, they're just playing Jacob Sexton there to play him there to get other guys reps. I just don't buy that. Like, I think it's a situation of, hey, let's see if Jacob Sexton could play left guard for us at an elite level, so that because you feel better about whatever, and he's one of your best 5, and you got to find a way to get him on the field. That's the way I look at it.
I would say this with Tarquin in there, it's still not even close. The biggest concern is center on this team right now, because I just don't.
Right,
Josh, out of all the
thing
that's has happened, the one thing that is concerning is you don't really hear reports of, okay, they moved this guy to center and they think that maybe he has a future there. You haven't heard that at all.
No, and I think that is a sign that both they know that maybe that guy's not on the roster, and secondarily that they're aware, like they're fully planning, like we're getting something out of the portal, like we got to go find somebody who can help us. And I think Hickman makes as much sense as anybody, and that's a good fit. Like I said, smart kid, will pick up on what Bill's doing pretty quickly, and that will all work out. But oh no, I'm seeing things on the camera.
We have breaking news happening in front of us.
Okay, I'm out.
Okay, so first off, there's a report out there about something we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Is it coming from a credible source
Yeah.
first?
Yeah. Chris Hummer from 24/7 is reporting that TCU defensive tackle Debonic Williams is going to enter his name into the transfer portal. He was the true freshman All-American in 2022, all Big 12 selection last season. I think it's safe to say this is a guy that Oklahoma, even ahead of Lowell from Louisville, I think he jumps up number one on the list.
Yes.
That Oklahoma, and I know that, George, you've talked to some people even going into, I'm sure you'll be posting this on the message board on the Crimson Corner, but this is a name that I would expect Oklahoma to be extremely, extremely active with.
I would say he is probably their number one on the board.
Overall portal, regardless of position.
Yeah.
He's the best defensive tackle in the portal. Like I would say that right now and not even think twice about it. He's an NFL guy.
When you talk about accolades, you talk about, yada, 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 everything that he would bring to Oklahoma, home run, knock it out of the park, grand slam type of addition.
Where did he go to high school?
That's a great question. Let me look it up.
I believe he is from California, if I'm not mistaken. It was a weird deal. Yeah,
Yep.
Torrance,
Torrance,
Alamany,
California.
which is a good program out there. But it was a deal where nobody was that hyped about him. He was like a 3-star. He was a good player. And then from the minute he hit it at TCU, they were like, "Oh, we've got something." They were pretty excited about him from the start.
I would imagine even maybe by the time we're done with this pod, a list of suitors will come out. It'll be interesting to see if USC is on that.
Wait, where did you say he's from?
Torrance, California.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure they will be. I just I think OU's going to have a good chance here. I mean, there's obviously going to be a lot in play, but I think OU will be very involved.
This would be the one that would quiet down the OU doesn't have any money crowd, because you're going to have to spend to get this one.
Well, and did you see the article, the USC beat reporter for the Orange County Register, the guy that got in the trouble that Lincoln banned from practice last year? He wrote an article about their NIL. He talked to one of their NIL guys, talked to some of the players. Not the time that USC wanted that story to run, because there were several parents that were like, "We were promised X, and we got to campus, and it was like half of X." And so you're like, "Oh, that's not what USC wants." As they're working in the portal, and I know their recruiting class is going really, really well right now. You're like, that's not what anybody wanted to have out there. But it sounds like that. I mean, if I'm OU, if USC does get involved, I'm like, read this and tell me you're not concerned.
Well, and that's the concern with all these. I mean, that's a concern with Missouri. That's a concern with Ole Miss. Like, if you're over-promising cash and waiting to see if a kid's going to perform or not, and then he doesn't, what are you left with if they just want to back out and say, "No, we're not paying that. You're not any good." But this is a first-team All Big 12 guy. He's going to get, he's going to get a lot of offers. I mean, this is in this region. I mean, A&M's had a lot of guys. I mean, who was the defensive tackle that ended up at Ole Miss? He was kind of the first big domino to fall.
God, yeah, was number one player in the country a couple years ago.
Nolan.
Nolan, yeah.
Yeah, Walter Nolan, yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
God, of course.
Bob in a
it was.
room.
I didn't even hear him. Of
We
course
need to
it
just
was.
put Bob in a room that he can just push a button and just scream at us. So that's interesting. And everybody is busy now trying to get this out there. So once again, Eddie, give the news. Player.
Yeah, TCU defensive tackle Debonic Williams has reportedly intends to enter the transfer portal. He was a true freshman All-American in 2022 and All Big 12 selection in 2023. Again, this is a major, major situation that, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, I think USC's obviously, with the connections back into California, would be very logical, but they need to do everything they can to throw the bag.
And yeah, I think the good thing is we feel OU knows about this guy and
Yes.
will be heavily involved. So something to keep a track of. By the way, since we're putting this show on YouTube now, you want to sign up for Sooner Scoop. Now is the time. $1 for 2 months. Use a promo code OU1. and you can get the next couple of months. We're getting into recruiting, getting into camp season. Josh will be making his trips to Oklahoma to go high school to high school. So tons of stuff coming, but just sign up for just $1. Get 2 months free using that promo code OU1. Okay, so
by the way, just to kind of wrap up all the offensive line talk, I obviously center, but that's very much a wait and see right now.
I mean, there's only, I think, Hickman and maybe like a couple other backups.
The other center from Utah's in there. The kid from UNLV's in there. It seems like, especially with the latter two, you kind of wait and see. You wait and see what else is out there. Obviously, they're bringing Hickman in this weekend. I think that's a step in the right direction.
And I think the good thing for all of these players that we're talking about, with maybe the exception of the offensive line, but not so much. Like, you don't need a lot. Like on the defensive, for the defense, getting the TCU kid, like, it only adds to something that's pretty good already.
Yeah.
Now, the offensive line, you get a center, like you don't have a center, that thing can fall apart. You get a center, you get the kid from SMU, and it could kind of repair a lot really quickly.
It could, but I worry about right tackle. I think right tackle is a spot that they still need to try and figure out. And maybe it's somebody that's on the roster that you can move around. I know Logan Howland's had a pretty good spring. He's been mostly playing left tackle, but I think that right tackle spot, if you can find someone in the portal, I think you'd feel a lot better there. I just don't know.
Yeah,
there's not a whole lot of guys out there.
I mean, it does sound like Jake Taylor has had a better second half of the spring. Like, it's picked up a little bit, but I still don't know that you feel confident like that's the guy. He's the answer to that problem.
All right, Josh, let's talk about this weekend. Just kind of a general look from 10,000 feet up, but like, what are the big storylines, guys, to really keep an eye on, guys that you're looking forward to seeing exactly what happens with them this weekend?
Well, it's an interesting weekend because I've started trying to track down people. They're having the same questions that we were to start the podcast. Like, is it even going to be happening? Do I want to come? The weather's going to be awful. The good bit of news for Oklahoma is that Texas is facing the same problem. Apparently, Texas is about to face a terrible Saturday too.
Yeah.
For their spring game. So I think there's not we can just pivot and go to Texas and we'll go to Oklahoma a little later. So I think that's been something we'll have to kind of watch. One of the interesting ones to me is Cortez Mills, a wide receiver out of Florida that really hasn't been mentioned a lot with Oklahoma, but he's coming up this weekend, or at least, as we know of at this moment. I guess I should preface almost all of this and just say this could change because of the weather. But with Cortez Mills, he's expected to come up, has a lot of big-time offers, and with the decommitment of Jaden Nickens, a lot opened up at receiver. There was a lot of different ways they could start to move when we kind of thought it was locked into kind of certain few guys. But Emmanuel Choice hasn't jumped on board. Obviously they're still chasing Andrew Marsh, Caleb Cunningham, and Quincy Porter. Those are kind of the four that are really right there. But Cortez Mills could absolutely come in and, if he falls in love and decides to set up an official visit, who knows what could happen. But he's an interesting guy to watch and a name that really hasn't been talked about a lot with Oklahoma so far.
Now, I'm trying to think, the kid that went to Notre Dame, he started all the predictions started coming in on him. The defensive back.
Tristan Haynes.
Yes,
from Carl Albert.
Is that something that's kind of looking dire for Oklahoma at this point?
Well, that whole situation's become even more interesting with Malik Hawkins, right?
Yeah, and that's the deal. At corner, it's trying to figure out what the plan is. Like, is Oklahoma willing to take three? Because if they are, then I think Tristan Haynes can absolutely still be part of the equation. And I know he's expecting to take his official visit, in June, just like everybody else. I think he wants to have his visit, his decision made probably mid-July. That's crazy how that's become the norm. Like, you take your official in June, and these guys are going to be done by July 15th. And, the vast majority of the guys that Oklahoma's recruiting, that kind of caliber of player. So we'll know a lot over the next few months. And again, great time to subscribe. Hit that promo. But there is with Tristan again. Like I get the impression that it's kind of he and Kobe Sellers is kind of Oklahoma's top two options at it. And, either one, it's kind of do what you want to do. I think Kobe is probably the guy, but they like Tristan Haynes a lot. He's a little more raw than Kobe is, but just such great size, big time speed. Like he's all you're looking for in a corner. And I know, there were some some predictions that came in for Notre Dame. And I don't think those are, wild guesses or anything like that. But I definitely don't think it's a deal where, he's kind of, he's already made up his decision and it's just going to wait to go public. I think it's kind of looking at the numbers because he talks about Alabama and Georgia. I don't think they're really going to be a factor at the end for him. I think they may have a few guys a little closer to home, a little, more priorities, just recruiting their base that they may focus on. But, I think Notre Dame's very much in play. Obviously, Oklahoma. He's got some other visits that he had talked with Chad about, Texas A&M, Miami. And I think they're all going to be factors. But, again, we've talked about it. With Oklahoma and all the connection they have at Carl Albert right now, that's not something you can ignore. And I think Oklahoma, like I said, if they want to push for Tristan Haynes, I still think they'll be tough to beat.
All right. You expect any commitments this weekend? Is anything brewing where you think, okay, this looks like it could pop?
I would say there's three, and interestingly, two of them are in 2026. The one guy in 2025 that I'm kind of watching is Cortland Guillory. Again, now he's told me it's kind of varied. Like he was just there a couple weeks ago, so he may not come. And again, with the weather, we just don't know for sure yet. I had really planned to have a list today, but then when all this started to come about, I was like, well, let me give these guys, a day or so to really kind of nail it down. But Cortland Guillory, love that visit. Again, he's part of that same conversation at corner. Like, is Oklahoma ready to take Cortland Guillory? Maybe the biggest question in this thing. So we'll kind of have to watch that a little bit. The two 2026 guys, a couple in-state guys, Caden Jones, the running back from Jinx. There's been some smoke signals that something's kind of cooking there. We'll kind of have to keep an eye on that and see what happens. I don't think he's ready. I don't think Caden's the kind of guy that's going to rush anything. But if you told me he's committed by November 1st, I definitely wouldn't be surprised. And the other is I always want to say Evanson Malaska, the corner from Bethany High. I know he's very high on Oklahoma. Obviously, his brother Jocelyn already being there. Talking to Evanson a little bit, there's clearly a lot of, he's getting good reviews from his brother. He likes what he's hearing. He likes how the staff's working with his brother, likes the early reviews, all that kind of stuff. So I think those are two I would watch. But again, this list that I've got is, I'll be perfectly honest, it's limited right now because all of it is maybe. So let me, as the week goes on, and definitely in Scoop on Friday, we will have a lot more information on who will be there, who we're watching. I always usually do like 5 commitments I might watch or 5 guys who could pick up an offer, that kind of stuff, kind of depending on what the lineup looks like. But we'll have more on that in Scoop to kind of weigh in on exactly, where this weekend could go. But I don't think it's going to be a crazy weekend for commitments, but I definitely think a couple are, within reason.
Real quick, just in terms of, we talked about Darion Coleman, 2026 quarterback on the recruiting report yesterday. If you want to hear Josh's thoughts, just in terms of somebody that it seems like is kind of taking the lead in the 2026 recruiting department at the quarterback position. But did the offer to Jonas Williams that was announced yesterday, does that signal anything to you in terms of maybe Oklahoma taking 2 quarterbacks in the 26 class?
That's kind of how I read that. Because again, I came out of that thinking, I don't know exactly. Well, he's talking about making an announcement on July 3rd, but maybe he goes before that. I don't know, but I feel very good about Oklahoma and Darion Coleman. So we'll have to see what the timeline is, but that kind of feels like a when, not if situation. And if that's the case, and obviously Oklahoma's aware of that, what's going on with Jonas Williams there? Like, what's the storyline? And to make that offer, and everything I've heard, he's very good. I know LSU offered him last week. I've watched a few clips, but I haven't really dug into the tape yet. But for Oklahoma to make that offer, I think you might be talking about two quarterbacks, kind of like what we saw, Oklahoma do in this past class. I'm kind of thinking maybe that's going to be Oklahoma's model under Brent Venables, where we just saw, Riley from year to year to year. It was just 1-1-1. But now with the portal and transfers and all of that, maybe it's 1-2, 1-2, and just kind of trying to make sure you've got enough quality quarterbacks in your room that you can withstand a transfer when it, inevitably happens.
All right. I want to get Bob in here, but he was at softball yesterday, so I want to hit this with you, George, while you're still here. Talking to Jackson Arnold yesterday, I thought I was more interesting than talking to Danny Stutsman. Not that I don't like hearing from Danny Stutsman, but it was really the first chance to kind of get his take on how the spring has gone. We've heard so many things, both good and bad, but I don't know. As I watched that last night when I got home, I kind of felt like he was being honest with us about how things are going with him, which is not I think he's trying to say like, yeah, I'm kind of going through and learning this thing and how to become the type of quarterback that I need to be at Oklahoma. But did you kind of get that sense like he's not? He knows he's not 100% of what he's going to be eventually, but there are some struggles, there are some successes with him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I didn't think he said anything like groundbreaking necessarily. I do think he was a little honest about just the development of the offense, and I think I asked him straight up about the offensive line, and he kind of talked about going through some growing pains there, and then him as well. I think the biggest thing that I took away from it was that he definitely is embracing being the starter and what comes with that, because I asked him too about what are his plans for the summer, because we don't know when we're going to get to talk to him again. We're hopeful that after the game on Saturday, but we'll see. But I think this summer him talking about setting up his own retreat that's already in the works, about getting the offense together and those sorts of things. Those are the things that I think that you could see a big leap in him in terms of leadership, but also doing those extra throwing sessions during the summer with some of these wide receivers is where he really needs to have that connection, so that when the pocket does collapse too quick, he knows who he can go to on 3rd and short or 3rd and long or whatever it is. I think that's where hearing him talk about those things, I think, was interesting. But he's still, kind of he's definitely gotten to be a better interview, but he's still kind of a quieter guy. Like I don't think he's ever going to be a very, loud guy, or like even Dylan last year was joking a lot with us. Jackson doesn't strike me as a...
I think he has a little bit of a dry humor.
Yes.
Sometimes he'll make some jokes. It was like the first time we talked to him this spring, he talked about, staying off social media, and he kind of chuckled about it. It's little things like that. He shows his personality, I think, just in maybe different ways than other guys have.
I do think that he's gotten, since talking to him last spring, he's certainly more comfortable talking to us. That's for sure. And then I think number 2 is that he kind of, reflecting on last year, he definitely feels like he's in a better spot than he was a year ago, which is good to hear. I think he, to your point, Kerry, knows though that he still has a ways to go.
It seemed like Eddie, didn't he kind of say that like he's developed a really good relationship with Deion Burks?
Yeah, I mean,
him and Jaden Gibson.
Yeah, Jaden Gibson.
It was kind of strange that he would speak so high. Like most quarterbacks are like, oh, all the receivers are doing great, got it great.
The other
he
one,
kind of singled people out. It was interesting.
The other one that he mentioned,
well, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. I think I have a reason for that.
Was J.J. Hester.
Right, but I think it was also in reference to working with guys while Jalil Farouk has been out.
Right,
because I asked that question about Jalil, and he just mentioned Jaden and J.J. I was like, J.J. Hester, interesting.
Now, he did make the one-handed grab.
Yeah, I think J.J. Hester has some ability. It's more of, staying healthy and just kind of grasping what they're doing offensively. We'll see.
No, but no offense to him, I think that you could also say at the same time that something would have to happen to Nick Anderson. There's a bunch of guys that are out during this period, too, that obviously Jalil Farouk, they would have to be out. Like, I don't know if it's the most comfortable spot in the entire world for Oklahoma offensively. If you look up, and no offense, but J.J. Hester's like the go-to guy in this offense.
Here are the 3 guys that I think have become his guys in the offense. and that's Jaden Gibson, Deion Burks, and I think Bauer Sharp. Those have been the three that he has talked about, and we've also just heard about being kind of the go-to guys for him, that he's clearly made a connection. And I think part of that's Nick Anderson's been out almost the entire spring. Jalil Farouk has, got injured recently, and I think also that, I think he just built a connection with Gibson right off the start. So those are the three that it would not shock me if they have, and we've talked about it, but that they have bigger roles than maybe some anticipate next year.
I'm pretty excited about Bauer Sharp just after hearing people talk about him.
I'm super jacked. Like, even Danny Stutsman, he came and did like a thing on the radio show the other day. He's like, he is an absolute dog. Like, he was the first person that he brought up.
He kind of has that aura of like all these guys in the NFL, like you think came out of nowhere, but like
it's a great story.
Yeah, I mean,
to go from like basically kind of breaking through the high school recruiting ranks to COVID hitting, and then all of a sudden everything, basically George wrote the story, dries up, gets a visit from Nick Saban, and then COVID-19 happens.
Right.
But it's like you think of those stories like Julian Edelman or all these. Like these tight ends that are all over in the league. I'm blanking
Aaron
on
Hernandez.
names.
I'm just thinking of tight ends in the league that used to be in the league.
But
I was like, he didn't say that. Yes,
I do think it's interesting like that. The Nick, for anybody that didn't read the story, go check it out on Soonerscoop.com. But Nick Saban did visit him a few weeks before COVID hit and was basically like, we're interested. We want to see what you do next year and stay in contact and all this stuff. And all of a sudden COVID hits, recruiting shuts down. And then the next season, his team goes like 1-8 on the season at 7-8 football in Alabama, and it just was he was really the only.
He was playing quarterback at the time, and all
right.
That
And they ran a funky offense where he was basically Tim Tebow, and they would just run QB power. That's how they moved the football down the field. So it's like his recruitment was just one of those odd ones. But the fact that like a school like Alabama and someone like Nick Saban saw the potential when he was just a raw athlete. I think he's starting to kind of grow into that potential now. And now that he's at a program like Oklahoma that can really develop him, I think it's going to be super beneficial. We'll see. I mean, I don't want to just be
I
this
don't
guy's
think
going to be an
anybody-
All-American.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not saying
He's
like
not going to win the Mackey Award, but
coming out of nowhere like Travis Kelce. That's not what
Sure,
I'm saying.
right,
I'm
sure.
saying more like a Jake Ferguson or
I
somebody.
think he can do a lot of things that like Braden Willis did.
which I think if they could just get half of that, that'd be
Right.
completely fine.
Yeah. And I think I think also the way that this offense is going to be structured, he's going to do some halfback stuff. I think Seth Luttrell and Joe John are going to draw some stuff up where they do some different things where maybe he's in the backfield and then he does a wheel route or whatever you have you. I mean,
It's
I think
definitely-
I just wonder how they'll use him in this offense.
Sure.
Like, can he?
Right.
Is he going to be a guy that can, be a focus of the offense, or is this offense just not really built that way?
Well, I thought it was interesting yesterday that Jackson, it might have just been a slip of the tongue, but he referred to the tight end position as the H-back.
right, he did. Yeah.
Which I thought,
he also
they
went
don't
on to say that they're going to
necessarily-
use them a lot. Like
Right.
It's a position that they feel like they can really use well.
Oh, I don't think that it's a coincidence that, we're talking about that, and you look at the two guys that are going to be in charge of the offense and where their relationship is with both of those positions.
What's up with your buddy Jake Roberts, Eddie? Because
I don't
we saw
know.
him
He
wheel
was on a
out
scooter
there.
All of a sudden, he's on
He
a
must have-
scooter, yeah.
Well, he must have had some type of procedure because it looked
Yeah.
like a pretty fresh wrap on it. Obviously, he's had the boot on. Maybe it was something that just never got better, and they, basically said, "Well, we should just
Maybe
go
go
in
clean
and,
it up.
Yeah, clean something up."
Maybe it was some bone marrow.
It was
or
definitely in his
something.
foot, but again, like he's
A
one of
bone
those
spur.
guys that I think that you can.
say bone marrow.
Yeah, I don't know. Bone marrow was not bad. No, probably maybe like a bone spur or something.
Yeah, I really don't know. He hasn't been.
He's in good
involved.
spirits, though. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
always joking
Always
around with us, so
hollering.
I would assume that he'll be back.
No doubt.
All right. Well, I'll leave you guys to, unless there's any more
Some
questions.
OU fan took a hammer to his foot after his brother committed to Ohio State. Is what I heard. Spread that rumor on Facebook.
I will leave you guys to the basketball portal because that seems
Well,
to be
this is-
going really well.
We were on such a high, and now it's going to be such a low.
Come on, Bob.
Not because of Bob's presence, but because of the information that he will be bringing.
All right, we bring in a man that no longer has to scream from the other room when we screw stuff up. He was he saw he's seen 2 no-hitters this year now.
Yep.
So-
5 innings, 6
You can use the mic. It's okay. You're here now.
It doesn't. They don't count because they didn't play 7 innings.
They didn't play 7 innings.
The people that were coming after Patty Gasso on Friday night, I'm sure, are saying that this doesn't count as a no hitter because they didn't play a complete 7 innings.
Well, what was funny about last night is Kirsten Deal no hit through 6, and it's only 3-0. So and then it's 8-0. She doesn't have to worry about trying to finish it. She accidentally already finished it.
The offense did it for her.
You'd have to correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the issue with runners in scoring position, not being able to get them in over the last, however, I guess it's been about a week and a half, 2 weeks. They're hitting the ball hard. Sometimes in baseball or softball, you keep hitting it hard, it's going to find a hole.
They did that last night, but it was strange. They only scored in 2 innings. It was just the third, and it was just the 6th. So I don't think the offensive issues are totally, fixed and everyone's feeling confident, but they keep fighting through it. And besides Friday, they've had the pitching to where the offense can keep struggling or having these mini struggles, and it doesn't matter if Kelly Maxwell or Kirsten Deal are throwing the way they are.
Let's just get down to it. Who in the lineup is not carrying their weight in comparison to where they should be and who they have been in the past?
Maybe because of injury, but Kinsey Hansen isn't doing the big stuff. She's getting hits. The hitting streak keeps continuing, but she hasn't been as clutch as she's been in the past. Alyssa Brito was moved to the 7th spot on Saturday. She responded in a huge way, but that was maybe a little mini wake-up call for her from Patty. And yeah, it's just been very odd because the numbers are still spectacular across the board, like 400, 450.
Because they're just used to such ridiculous numbers that.
But it's just they're not doing it with runners in scoring position. So you can get like 2 out, nobody on, you get a single, but then the next time up, first and second, and that's when you get the out. So it's just been the untimely hitting during the last couple of weeks.
String them together.
Yep.
All right.
I'm well versed in that. I've
You're
seen it before.
What is interesting is if Maxwell and Deal are the 2 best, and we all kind of feel that way now.
Sure.
They're both lefties. So do you go lefty in a weekend series? Would you ever go lefty? Go Maxwell, Deal, Maxwell?
Yeah.
So it's intriguing to see what that rotation will look like.
Where's Nicole May at right now? Because just from the outside looking in, it seems like she's getting beat. She's not missing a whole lot of bats.
It's very intriguing to see, like, these next 2 weekends. You've got last place Houston, and you're going to Central Florida, and then you have to have it all cleaned up for Bedlam. You need to not have any more question marks about what's going on in the field, going on in the circle, going on with the bats. You got to know. And so how Patty uses Nicole May these next 2 weekends will tell us a lot about the confidence and how they're going to try to utilize her going down the stretch.
Well, and I would think that you would want to have as many things in place as possible for that Bedlam series because we don't know how Kelly Maxwell is going to respond. I mean, it's going to be emotional. Will it affect her, and will that take away one of your major weapons? If your offense is not clicking and you haven't figured out a third in the rotation, could be an ugly series for Oklahoma again.
It could. And I mean, Friday night was the first example of everything is just not clicking. They had some errors, had some misplays, defense, pitching. Nicole May didn't have it from the start, and then no one who came in relief was able to pick her back up, and the hitting wasn't there. I mean, you don't lose games like that if you're OU against BYU team that really hadn't done much throughout the conference season. Now, it was that type of weekend across the board. Iowa State taking 2, OSU. You had a lot of teams in the top 10 losing once.
7.
Yeah.
7 on Friday night.
Yeah.
7 of the top 10 teams
so
lost.
But you're just not used to it with OU. So we'll continue, once again, monitor their response because Patty keeps challenging them. Have they turned the corner, or is it they turn a corner for a game or 2 and then they take another step back?
I just got to think it's almost refreshing for Patty. Like she's actually coaching a team. She's trying to get something out of them. She's trying to get more than they're giving her. So hopefully she's kind of enjoying it. It's not I mean, it's 4 losses. I mean, it's not.
They're 38-4, and it's like
4
doomsday.
losses.
Doomsday.
How many
2
programs
seed.
would be the career year for everyone that played on most softball teams in college Division I? So it's not as bad, but there's things to work on. Let's go to what is bad.
Oh man.
Portal
Sleepless
Moser.
nights. Text messages like crazy.
Where has it? Let's start out with where it's gone most wrong.
Kevin Overton. I mean, we talked about it. You know, we mentioned that we've had OU be in line for some of these other guys, and they had a connection to this other school, so OU didn't get it. So it's the 3 in-state. It's Brandon Garrison, it's Kevin Overton, it's Sean Padula, and if you ask me now, I'd say there's a better chance going 0 for 3 than going 2 for 3. And I thought Kevin Overton was going to be the slam dunk. I thought there wasn't going to be much high-level interest from him from one season at Drake. And he would come back home to Norman, just lock it up. Then you get Padula because, you know, he wasn't recruited by Porter and staff the first time around. Then you get Padula and Overton to work together to get Garrison, and everything was going to be great. And it felt like that Friday afternoon, that was like the all-time high of where the portal had been under Portal Moser. Padula was in town. Everyone was saying, oh, this visit is going awesome. Like, they're knocking it out of the park. Hopefully he'll commit by weekend's end. Then he can try to get Garrison, who's showing up on Saturday. And just in a span of 2 or 3 days, it all fell apart.
Specifically with Overton and I have no idea, that's why I'm asking, but is it a situation that he looked at what was on the Oklahoma roster and thought, all right, well, maybe did somebody like a Caden Cooper scare him away, I guess would be my question.
I think it was a misread of a situation by all involved, and I'll put myself in there too. We heard he was visiting Lubbock.
Right.
Okay. It felt like it was a favor. We all termed it as a favor. His Sunrise coach is now in Lubbock. Oh, he's just being nice. He wants just, check it out, but he's going to commit to the Sooners. And it just never entered my mind. In fact, even when he announced Saturday, oh, I'm going to commit Tuesday, I was like, okay, he's seen Lubbock. Now he's ready to be a Sooner. And it wasn't until Sunday I realized, no, he's seen Lubbock and he's staying there. And he's going to go to Texas Tech. And all the work and effort that they've been trying to get these 3 former in-state stars to come back to OU and lead this team, it's not working out that way. Because you don't have that momentum that builds 1 into 2 into 3. And so now you just lost Overton. And Padula, again, I was ready Saturday night. I was ready all day Sunday. And for whatever reason, hadn't popped. There's been some chatter about Baylor being the option now, and when you hear it's like, oh, he needs, not wants, needs to be closer to home, then how is OU still waiting for something to happen at this point? Garrison's always going to be a fight. I mean, it was cool that they got involved because I didn't even know if they were going to stand the chance, but this will be a battle with Texas. And I think with OSU, I think those are the 3 that'll be there the entire way. If you asked me today, I'd say I'm leaning more toward him return Stillwater than actually ending up in Norman or Austin.
And is Overton almost solely responsible for that? You think, like if he doesn't go to OU, you think it was a domino effect?
I think it could only have been a positive domino. I don't think there were negative dominoes. I don't think one led to one saying no, but there's a strong case to be made that Garrison goes to OU to wake up Texas to say this is the NIL amount. This is what I really want to try to get done. Texas gets 3 commitments last weekend, but then Dylan Mitchell and Tyrese Hunter both hit the portal. So it's not like they won't have some money to play around with. They don't have spots to mess around with. So we'll see what happens with his expected trip to Austin. But it hasn't been you're just looking for one. It's not even positive. I'm just going back to last year. As of April 17th, they didn't have a commitment either. Now what happened is after they got JV on McCollum, everything started rolling. So the question just becomes, who is that first guy that can finally get this train going?
But you probably didn't have a Kentucky out there grabbing people up last year, did you?
No, I mean,
it's just the portal.
Everybody.
Yeah, it's just portal.
Just the same as it was right now.
I think what I'm saying is I'm noticing people are making very quick decisions.
Yes.
It seems like
That happened last year to a certain extent.
And that's why the Overton thing was a little disheartening last week when you took your best shot, had him in before the dead period, and all it led to OU's being in his top 6. Now, we knew it wasn't a top 6. It's really like a top 3. But you're like, dang it. You did what what you're supposed to do in the portals, be the first visit, and then all those other visits end up getting canceled because you end up going to the very first school. And so when that didn't happen, that was a little bit of a pause, but I just thought, okay, now Padula commits. Padula gets on the horn with Kevin, says, come on, stop playing games, join us, let's get this thing going. And none of that actually went down.
Of course, Kentucky's now taking the 24-year-old Mormon mission guys now, so.
I think he's 22. He's a baller, though. He is a baller. They might be interested in Otega Owe. I don't know if that's just Mark Pope's, he obviously played against him, thought he was
That'll be one
that's
that's like, he's supposed to visit the Ducks. And if he commits to Oregon, it's like that's usually how it works out.
Yeah.
You go to your first school, that's kind of where you go, lock it up.
Okay, so Garrison, outside of Garrison, where's Porter go now?
Aaron Scott, North Texas.
Yep. We've got 2 visits that have been confirmed. One, Kobe Elvis from Dayton. That'll be one of your guards, hopefully. He's supposed to arrive in Norman on Thursday for his official visit. And then Aaron Scott from North Texas for a forward, just coming off a visit to St. John's, and is the brother of Liz Scott for the women's team, for OU's women's team. So you're hoping that you can kind of use that for some leverage here, but it's kind of hard right now to piece together because you have 5 spots left. They're not all going to be 5, 20-point per game starters. Where do some of these guys fit as a complementary role, as a starring role? Like where would they want some of these guys? They don't have the star at this moment, and that's a concern as you get closer and closer to that May 1st portal window closing.
All right, there it is.
It sounds real
out.
Positive.
It has been 4 days of
real
just,
positive right now. There's some real positive
I don't
going
even
on.
want to go to the Portal Moser thread.
Do you get scared when you tweet something out?
I get
just
scared
knowing
when
that
I
the
post
comments are going to be coming in?
Oh, yeah, and I get scared
because I get scared for you before you even do it.
When Porter put that out yesterday about Blake Griffin, I shudder to look at the responses because the first one was like, "What about the portal, Porter? You don't need to be tweeting about Blake Griffin. You need to be getting guys to Norman." It's been
the 25 seconds that it
week.
took to craft that tweet would have really changed everything.
Yes, exactly.
Well, and it's like, and Porter Moser crafted that tweet. He definitely put that together and made the graphic as well.
Yeah, he did the Blake Griffin graphic that OU basketball sent out. He's a big Photoshop guy.
Well, maybe he can.
Hats off to Blake, though.
No, that's
Absolutely.
awesome.
14-year career.
And the thing about Blake is, that was back in the day when I was covering basketball day to day. Just one of the all-time. I mean, the fact that he and Sam were on campus together. And
Yeah, Courtney Paris.
Courtney Paris.
It's crazy.
I mean, just what a time for OU sports in general. But to see Blake Griffin as he got older is nothing compared to what he was, how explosive he was as an athlete. Just do yourself a favor, and if you haven't done it in a while, go watch some of his YouTube clips, when he's with the Clippers.
Especially the early NBA day stuff. He was unbelievable.
Go and search out NCAA tournament stuff when 2009. Like that was, I remember being in Kansas. I think it was Kansas City and Memphis that year. But the Michigan fans, I mean, watching him own an entire student section.
It's one of the all-time.
Syracuse and Michigan.
Yep.
And just, I mean, they were just giving it to him left and right. And remember, Tyler Hansborough basically whimpered out of that game.
He made him his bitch.
Yeah.
They lost the game, but he made him his bitch.
Well, that's my biggest regret about
that
his
North
career.
Carolina team was awesome.
Is that they didn't get in a different bracket besides North Carolina because they would have been a Final Four team. I think.
I think that they would have been. I tell this story all the time, but like the first time that I truly kind of grasped how big Blake Griffin had become was when the North Carolina fans who played the game before OU Syracuse in the Sweet 16 over in Memphis, they stayed around
to watch Blake
just go through the layup line.
Yeah.
And he was throwing down all these different dunks and stuff. I just remember thinking God, this kid that would run around Taylor at Tri-City is now the biggest thing in college athletics.
Well, and the thing about it was too, it's like Memphis was in that. They weren't in the bracket, but they played in Kansas City because they have different regions playing in the same place.
Yep.
And Memphis, remember, they had who was the first round pick they had then?
Well, it would have.
Is this after Rose?
Yeah, I was going to say it was after Rose.
Roberts. Okay. Yeah.
God, what was that dude? He was a big forward.
I just remember thinking, man, these Memphis people, they just reek of like it was that first experience of seeing like somebody's like, oh, so
new
they're,
money.
They're definitely cheating, huh? And then Josh Pastner, I think, got fired like a year and a half later, and was like, yep, I saw that coming.
Trying
like
to
gold, like the gold rings and all that kind of stuff, and it's just like, oh, okay.
I mean, they had that swagger, that
no,
new
they
money
did.
swagger.
They did. They were coming off of what would that have been in 2008? They were coming off of a national championship appearance against Kansas and all that. They were an extremely good group.
I mean, Chris.
I see a Robert Dozier.
No, it's a. You guys will kick yourselves when you hear the name. He kind of flamed out. Oh, Tyreek Evans. Evans. That's who I'm thinking of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, he was really good for a while, but then he quickly flamed out of the NBA. But he was on that team, and the thing was, like the Memphis fans, like you said, they were full of themselves. And then they saw Blake Griffin play, and they're like, why don't we have him?
Those were good times. Those were some good memories. That was also the first time that I was in the same press conference room as Jim Boeheim. That was before he killed somebody. And just remember, like, he was the quintessential, like, just arrogant East Coast prick that you would think Jim Boeheim is. It was almost kind of like I was in awe a little bit.
Yeah, he had a presence. What's his name that's at Auburn now?
Bruce Pearl.
Bruce Pearl had a huge
I've
presence.
always said it. I like Bruce Pearl because he doesn't hide who he is. He's going to cheat. He's going to be upfront about it.
He was coaching in that 2008 regional in Birmingham.
I did not go down there.
And that was another.
Was he still at Tennessee at the time?
He was at Tennessee, yes. Or no. Who was he with before Tennessee? It was a smaller school. It was like, was it Niagara Falls or something? Or no, Milwaukee. Something Milwaukee.
Yeah,
Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
School.
The Illini took him 2005. Loved it.
Milwaukee. So it was
Bruce Pearl and the Illini have some bad blood going back to the 80s, but I will not get into it. So
I think it might have been Louisville playing Milwaukee, Wisconsin in that tournament in 2008, Birmingham Regional.
Yeah, he was at Milwaukee University. Tennessee,
but even then, you're just
Indiana.
like, that dude's swinging a big dick. Like, so, no, but I mean, those 2 years going to the NCAA tournaments with Blake Griffin, I mean, it's too bad we're all, blocked by Jeff Capel now, but that was a special time.
Tony Crocker.
Oh, Tony Crocker
had an
destroyed
unbelievable
Syracuse.
Regional. Yeah.
He was the reason that they advanced.
7 or 8 threes that year.
Alex, what was the point guard's name?
Spalding.
Alex Spalding.
Oh, my God.
It was a fun group.
Oh, that name in a long time.
Instead,
So, yeah, congratulations, Blake. Great career. Sooner legend forever.
Oh, yeah.
And, we were talking about it this morning. You have to put him ahead of Wayman Tisdale as greatest OU NBA player. Just length that he played, number of all-star teams that he made. I mean, Wayman's a legend. But
6-time All-Star?
And
6-time All-Star.
5-time All-NBA.
Is he a Hall of Fame guy? We had this discussion this morning. It's a
legitimate
I don't
discussion.
think it's fair for us to have it in Oklahoma.
I have no idea. Like, from the outside looking in, it feels like they put anybody in the, in the Hall of Fame these days.
I don't know where the bar is.
Yeah, and I don't think that's not a hit at Blake. I just don't know where. Like, I think they have like some type of metrics, like your Hall of Fame expectancy or something. He's at 54%, which is like right down the middle of he could not.
If Chris Paul had stayed healthy and they'd won a championship, he definitely would be in.
Yeah, I hate the idea that you have to win a championship, but yeah, I get it.
All right. Anything baseball-wise you wanted to get out before?
No, good,
real quick. I
really
don't
good
know
weekend.
if we'll have time for a stickball this week because of the portal, family business, and all that.
It is crazy.
And, of course, the spring game, but just any baseball stuff you wanted to get out
Yeah,
there.
just a really good weekend. They swept Kansas State over the weekend. Offense seems to be really clicking right now. You look at the pitching over the weekend, and it was pretty good by and large. So They head into what I think is kind of an interesting stretch. Got BYU coming up this weekend out in Provo, Thursday through Saturday, obviously, because BYU doesn't play on Sundays. And I think it's pretty important that you take 2 of 3. You're up in top of the Big 12 right now. Baseball America had them back in as a regional host in the NCAA tournament as the number 13 overall seed. Okay. So, I think it's going to be right there. It's within, grabbing distance. And John Spikerman did pinch run on Sunday. And I think that is progressing in a positive direction to get him back into the lineup. Wouldn't be surprised at all if he gets back in there this weekend. You got Texas coming next weekend, which that's just a complete shit show right now. I was looking at their box score last night. They got beat by UT Rio Grande Valley. Walked 11 batters, which I
you've
felt
been there.
for him. I've been there. I get it. It sounds like David Pierce is, most certainly on the hot seat down there, as Texas has had a pretty disappointing season. But, it feels like they're playing pretty good baseball right now. And, it's kind of like what we talked about last week when you come out of the Stillwater experience and kind of kicking yourself. You'd lost 3 conference weekends in a row, 3 series in a row, 2 of them being conference series, and you're kind of back up now. So you're 11-4 overall. It feels like they're headed in the right direction. They got some talent down there. You need to go take 2 or 3 this weekend against BYU.
That's what I was going to ask.
That's like the
bare minimum
to keep the trajectory. You need to I don't think that they're going to sweep, because obviously sweeping is hard. But all of a sudden you look up and they have 3 sweeps in conference play, and that's one of the reasons that they're 11-4 overall. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see kind of where this thing is at coming out of these next couple weeks, because it does feel like they're playing pretty good baseball and they're scoring runs.
Just got to throw strikes.
Yeah. You're scoring over 10 runs a game over the last, I think, 12 games now. That's good. If you can just find some answers in the bullpen, which, just throw strikes, everything will take care of itself.
Next time you talk to Spikerman, relay a message for me. Please don't pull a Kyle Freeland while you're pinch running.
Yeah. I think John Spikerman knows a little bit better how to slide than a starting pitcher that doesn't hit anymore, which, the Rockies are so bad that it probably doesn't even matter at the end of the day. Some bad baseball teams out there.
There really are.
There are some.
Guess who's not a bad baseball team?
Might be the worst I've seen.
Guess who's not a bad baseball team?
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Kansas City Royals, ladies and gentlemen.
Bobby Witt is making a case for
I
the
think
best player in the
that
league.
says everything. That speaks to where this thing has been. That we can flat out say that they're better than where they have been, and we're only 22 games into the season.
Yeah, I'll take it.
They're not going to be the worst team in the division. I can tell you that, because I think the Southsiders have that locked up. That is a
horrible,
historically bad baseball team.
What are they, 2-15?
Yes.
Something like that to start?
Yeah.
They benefited from a series with the White Sox, I can tell you that.
Don't cut it short, though. That was it was on the road.
All right.
Had to go to Chicago and do that.
Well, guys, Josh, anything that you wanted to throw out there before we get out of here today?
No, I don't think I have anything. Like I said, just follow along. Like the weather stuff really impacts the recruiting visit.
Sure.
So we'll keep tracking that over the next 48 hours.
I would say too, and maybe there's a decision by the time we get it out there. I think that the powers that be were meeting on Wednesday morning to kind of get a better idea, game plan.
That's what I heard at softball.
Because not only is it the spring game this weekend, but they're going to have the statue unveil over at Love's Field on Saturday, which, if you look at the forecast on Saturday, I don't know what Houston's travel situation is. I would imagine Friday or Sunday is going to end up being a doubleheader at some point, maybe. I don't know. Maybe you can push softball back all the way to Saturday evening and the weather moves out or whatever.
That was what was being discussed a lot.
Yeah.
Tuesday night is where you go from here, and you also
problem is how cold is it going to be in the evening?
It's going to be cold. It's not even hit 60. Yeah, it's not even hitting 60 when it's a cold rain.
It sucks because it feels like, and I feel like we say this every year when you're talking about the spring game weekend, that it can be super, super nice the week before. It'll be super, super nice the week after, but every year it seems like
in between,
that week of the spring game is always bad, whether it be severe weather or rain or cold or wind, which you expect this time of the year. It's just kind of effed up.
And I guess if they don't do it this weekend, I can't see Patty wanting to do the next home series is Bedlam.
Yeah.
I don't see a statue unveiling happening for
They have any?
for
And
Bedlam.
I guess they probably wouldn't want to do it on like a midweek.
They don't have any
They're done.
Yeah.
with home games,
So-
or are they just done in general with midweek?
Midweek, yeah.
Crazy. It's crazy.
We
that
are
there's only
down
3
the
weeks
stretch
left.
run. Exactly. We are getting there.
You think they're going to get into the NCAA tournament?
That's one bubble watch I don't have to pay attention to.
Take that off your plate.
All right, that's going to do it for us. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast. Meanwhile, check out the YouTube page because we will have. That's
Shane
not good.
Gillis
Yeah, I
at
know,
UT
that's not good.
Austin. That's tough.
Flashing
I
the
like
horns
Shane.
up. Anyway, check us out on YouTube. Portal Report coming. Also, Practice Report coming. And Family Business coming up with Kenny Stills later tonight as well. So thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll see you back here next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com.